Search my heart, search my mind, search my soul. Make me clean, make me new.
Hey everyone, it's Coach Emily and I'm here with my husband, Coach / Dr. Wiggy, and we are going to talk just a little bit tonight about female hormones, specifically those for premenopausal women and women that are in the very beginning stages of menopause. And we hear a lot of questions about lowered sex drive, in particular with women in their late 30s to mid 40s. And actually it can happen at any age, but many women feel like there's something wrong with them mentally, or that they're not desiring their spouse anymore because there's something, deep going on within their heads or something like that. And in fact, this is a really physical condition, and while it's not normal to have hormonal imbalances, it is quite common, especially now. So Dr. Wiggy is going to tell us a little bit about what is happening and what are some ways that we can address these imbalances so that we can have a vibrant sex drive once again. So let's just dig right in and
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about what's going on when this happens in that kind of age range.
Sure. Well, first off, let me just tell you that you're not alone. This is a very common complaint that I hear in the practice, all the time. And I see, a pretty wide range of ages that come into the practice, but, a large percentage of them are in that age group from the 30s, up to about around 50. And we do see, that is a common complaint, is that, my libido is low, or my sex drive just is not the way that it used to be. And, a lot of times they do feel like it's something more, just in their head. It's something where they can just kind of, think their way out of it. In a lot of ways, it's more complicated than that, and we do tend to see a lot of hormone imbalances really affect sex drive. I mean, and it does, because that's what really drives the desire and drives the libido is the hormones. And that's, of course, it's more complicated than that as well than just saying it's just hormones, but that's a big part of it. And if you have the imbalances, or if you have the deficiencies, then again, your sex drive is just not going to be the way that it is. So again, that age group, 30 to 50, kind of this premenopausal time frame, before they get through full-blown menopause, we see a lower sex drive related to a couple things. One thing that we see it related to is actually just an imbalance. So where this can happen if there are things like PCOS, or actually PMS can do this, but just if there's an imbalance of the sex hormones, and usually that is with too high of estrogen and not enough progesterone. That's typically what we see. And again, it is a very intricate system, just kind of the whole, just the sex drive and the endocrine system is very complicated. So again, a lot of times things have to be in the correct ratio in order for, again, the things to work the way that they should. So a lot of times, supplementing with like a bioidentical or natural progesterone can really kind of bring things back into balance. And a lot of times, again, sex drive tends to improve just when things are back in balance. A lot of times that's one key component. The other key component of this is pretty straightforward, but there actually can be deficiencies in other hormones that really affect sex drive directly. So those two main sex hormones that help with sex drive include DHEA and testosterone. DHEA is one of the main master hormones. It is a precursor to testosterone. It is an androgen, and so it has the androgenic effects that includes, improved energy, improved sex drive, improved confidence, improved overall sense of well-being. So DHEA is a very important hormone, and that's something that we check regularly in the office. And a lot of times, again, we see deficient levels in that. But again, given the unique circumstances, sometimes it's too high, sometimes it's too low. Sometimes, again, it's more about the modulation, getting back within the normal range. So DHEA is, again, a very important hormone to look at. But the other one, again, in this one's would make sense with this one would affect sex drive so much, is testosterone. So just like, a lot of times women think, well, testosterone, that's just a male hormone, and that's not necessarily the case. Women need testosterone just like men need estrogen. Again, it's not as cut and dry and black and white as saying, well, women don't need testosterone. women have a fine or a delicate range for where their testosterone needs to be. Again, too much is a problem, but too little is also a problem. And the deficiency really does affect energy, sex drive, confidence, motivation. Lower levels of testosterone really do tend to make a big difference. So if there are lower levels of DHEA, if there's lower levels of testosterone, generally what I start off with for someone that's younger is start off with DHEA, because DHEA is a precursor to testosterone, and sometimes that's enough to boost up the DHEA levels, also boost up the testosterone levels. Sometimes even if, a step further back than that, sometimes just doing pregnenolone can make a big difference, because pregnenolone is actually the main master hormone, is a precursor to DHEA, also a precursor to testosterone, so sometimes that's enough as well.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit, a lot of times when a female will go to like an OBGYN and complain about this, they sometimes will put them on progesterone or sometimes on an estrogen, or suggest that they go on to a synthetic form of one of those two hormones specifically. Can you tell us a little bit about why that's a problem and why it doesn't work, and where, what are some resources that women might turn to otherwise?
Sure. Well, most of the time that I hear when my patients have already been to their GYN or their primary doctor, most of the time they're told that there's nothing that can be done, or not necessarily there's nothing that can be done, but that just that's a normal part of whatever it is that they're going through. So if they say, well, you've been married for 10 years, or you have 2 kids or whatever, so your sex drive is going to be lower.
Right.
Or they say, well, are you depressed, or
Right,
there's other
depressed.
things that they're gonna kind of blame it on, which I feel like is kind of a disservice to a lot of patients, because again, there's usually is a reason why they're feeling the way that they are. So first off, again, a lot of times it's dismissed. Don't let that discourage you, because again, that's just again not part of our traditional training. And then if they do recommend certain things, a lot of times they will not recommend progesterone, so that's usually not something that's generally thought of initially, because it's not, they don't think about the balance. It's just more about, well, if it's low, let's give you some testosterone. If they do start testosterone, they generally recommend testosterone. A lot of times they do. Sometimes they recommend, there are different combination medications that are available. Sometimes they use a synthetic estrogen with a synthetic testosterone. Sometimes they do that. There's patches out there. Estrotest is one of those patches. So there are some options out there. Other times they put them on male-specific products and tell them to use a really small amount. Again, I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good idea either, just because they're very concentrated, and then doing just a small amount for women, I think, is a little bit hard to dose and to get the amount right. So generally what I recommend if I do go to the testosterone is that I do a compounded medication, just because, again, you want to do a lower concentration than what you get with men, just because, again, you don't want to grow hair or have acne all the time. Because typically with men, if we do a compounded medication, we do about 20% testosterone cream. That's 200 milligrams per gram. In women, we start off about 1/10 of that. So we start at 2% cream, which is 20 milligrams per gram. So again, they get and we even do like a one quarter of a gram to start off with. So it's even much lower dosed, than, again, nowhere near what men would do. So you want to make sure you're getting the appropriate dose, and also having someone monitor the levels to make sure your levels are going where they should be. That's another problem that I typically see with again, just regular gynecologists, is that they'll just say, here, try this prescription. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, well then, too bad. But there's no real monitoring and no real checking of the levels to make sure that, again, they are where they should be.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And, if you are not local to our area and can come to a practice like Wiggy's, you do seek out an integrated physician that does specialize in bioidentical hormones. A lot of times I think that's going to be your best bet. As far as finding someone who can really treat you as an individual for this type of issue, because every female is different. As different as we are on the outside, we are on the inside, and you really need to use your blood levels and that type of thing to figure out what those appropriate doses are, so that you can feel better and hopefully alleviate some of these symptoms without going overboard and causing other issues and so forth. So thanks so much. Hope that you learned something and can put it to use, and we'll talk soon.
See ya.
Search my heart, search my mind, search my